Howdy, folks. What's going on? This is the Outlaw Hatfield back at you one more time. Hey, tonight is our weekly wrestling chat. I've got Rich White here with me. Rich, how you doing, Bubba?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. How's yourself?
Interesting day at work, but other than that, life is good as usual. So far, we've only got two out there that I see, and that would be the Crazy Scotsman and Kingpin, who likes to announce the fact that the fabulous Moolah was an actual wrestler. And yes, she
No,
was a
oh,
world champion a time or two.
yeah,
Women's,
she's also Kingpin's life crush, so he can't help it.
well, poor Kingpin. Uh, you know, I when I seen him post it, I got to thinking, who was some of her better opponents? I remember in the '80s there was a female wrestler by the name of Bambi. You remember her?
Mm-hmm.
Her and Moolah went at it a few times.
Yeah.
Sherry Martel,
Wendy Richter,
Wendy, yep.
who finally ended Moolah's reign as champion. Only
Well,
because Moolah wouldn't take the belt off herself because she promoted the women's division.
mm, she,
Yeah, she's right up there on that with Vern Gagne, you know what I mean?
yeah. Well, how many years did Vern have the title?
Yeah,
I mean, all total.
yeah, the AWA title. He was constantly AWA champion.
Yeah. I mean, he had it for what? I guess all total for years and years, but an exact number, I'm not sure.
Mm-hmm. And the only guy that ever really got it other than Vern for the longest time was Nick Bockwinkel.
Yeah. Yeah. And if I ain't mistaken, wasn't it Harley Race that beat Nick for the title?
One time, yeah. Another time, Kurt Hennig took it off of him.
So there you go. There's some history for you that most people probably don't remember. Good Lord. We're going way back now. That's what, 70s?
Hennig versus Bockwinkel was in the 80s, mid 80s.
Yeah.
That was before he went over to WWF and became Mr. Perfect.
Yeah. And I have to say that they picked the perfect man for that. I mean, I don't know how much of, those little snippets of videos that he did was actually real, but, you know, he was pretty good at most sports he decided to go into and play. Dude, do you have a cat?
Yes, that is the cat.
That is the cat.
Yes, his name is
But
Dum Dum.
well, I was going to ask you if it was the big cat.
No, his name
No.
is Dum Dum. He's a Siamese. He likes to talk.
Well, apparently. How about some Tony Atlas for old school?
Mm.
Tony Atlas was a hell of a talent.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't get the push that he deserved, but he was a hell of a talent.
And for a while there, you couldn't mention Tony Atlas without Rocky Johnson.
Yep. They were a damn good tag team.
Mm-hmm. Them versus the Samoans, if you go back and watch some of those old videos, they beat the hell out of each other.
I am one of the few people out there. Don't get me wrong. I absolutely love single matches. I thought they were great, but I was always a big fan of the tag team stuff. The Rock and Roll Express, Midnight Express, as we spoke about last week, the Road Warriors, the Nasty Boys, the Hart Foundations. Take any two members of the Four Horsemen, throw them in a ring together. Dusty Rhodes and Nikita, Dusty and Magnum, Dusty and Ron Garvin,
Dusty and Manny Fernandez.
Yeah, oh yeah. Well, they were world champions, tag team champions together for a while. So, you can. Okay, here's a question for you. Come up with a world class tag team that didn't exist. Take two guys from any territory or any organization and create a tag team. Your tag team.
Lord. From any federation.
From any federation.
Oh,
And I'll go you one better. I'm gonna make it interesting. This tag team is in a match against the Steiner brothers. That's your opponent. That's the opponent of the tag team you're gonna make.
oh hell! I know exactly what tag team I would throw against them. That's a current tag team right now.
Well,
I'd
yeah,
put the Guerrillas of Destiny against them.
yeah, but we're talking about back then.
Well, you said any federation or any time.
Any federation, any territory, you know.
They're the 6-time IWGP World Tag Team Champions.
Well, I know,
Sons of
but
Haku.
but we're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it in a 1980s, not 1990s time frame here. Hey, Alaska, how are you? We also have gun loving grandpa out there, Kingpin, of course. So, and I did see the crazy Scotsman, Ronnie Garvin and Lex Luger. Eh,
Yeah, Alaska Bliss. You obviously don't watch New Japan. New Japan is old school stuff. Still, New Japan's pretty darn good. But let me see. I think Scott Norton
good choice.
and Brian Pillman.
Ooh. So you got the speed and the power.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I can see that. That would be a decent match to
And
watch.
both of them were good tag team wrestlers too.
Yep. Yep. That would have been a pretty good match to watch. Okay, so who would I pick? Um, not very easy, is it?
No, it's not because you got so many to choose from. And remember,
Um,
just because they're a good solo wrestler doesn't mean they're going to be a good tag team wrestler.
exactly. So there's that you have to look into. Um, Jake the Snake Roberts and Dusty Rhodes.
It'll be interesting, that's for sure.
Well, or I think that that's a unique enough combination with two, excuse me, two totally different styles. And so it would be hard for the Steiner brothers to, get a feel for what they're about, how to go about defending against the two completely different styles that Jake and Dusty had.
Yeah. Kingpin throws out there Ric Flair and Triple H.
Well, see, they had tagged before, though. They were a legitimate tag team.
Yeah, but no, they weren't the tag team in the Evolution. The tag team in Evolution was Batista and Flair.
No, this is true. This is true. Ric Flair and Triple H. But their styles are so similar.
Mm-hmm. And remember, we did put a limit on the 90s, so Evolution wasn't a thing in the 90s.
Yeah, this is true.
You would have DX Triple H and the original DX Triple H and Ric Flair.
That would be pretty good. He also threw out Jake the Snake and Terry Funk.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing about Terry Funk is Terry Funk's unpredictable at
Yeah, but
best.
Funk was a good tag team partner. Remember, him and his brother Dory did hold the
Oh yeah,
WWF tag team titles.
this is true. They sure did. You could come up with different scenarios. Okay, same scenario, but instead of the Steiners, you're going up against the Rock and Roll Express.
I'll go with the same team I already stated. I would ride that horse. I mean, Scott Norton is extremely underrated.
Oh yeah, I agree.
He's one of those guys that people don't realize was a world champion.
Oh yeah.
He held the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship over in Japan.
Okay. What about Scott Norton and let's say Bubba Rogers, Ray Trailer?
Yeah.
That would have been a hell of a tag team.
Yeah. Kingpin just started an interesting one too. Shawn Michaels and Barry Windham.
Shawn and Barry. I would think that on one hand would be a phenomenal tag team.
They were both good tag team wrestlers before they became one in the scene.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. Barry and Kendall used to team together all the time. Lex Luger and Barry was a tag team.
Well, Barry and Mike Rotunda in the U.S. Express.
My problem with that combination though is I don't think Barry would have put up with Shawn Michaels' arrogance.
Yeah, I can see that.
I really don't think that. Just
on the same token, Barry was in the Four Horsemen at one point.
No, this is true. This is true. No, I mean, when Ole left, it was Barry Windham that stepped into that spot. So Barry can get kicked in the face too. Oh, he's probably been kicked in the face quite a few times.
Mm-hmm.
But
probably by Shawn Michaels too.
It's a possibility.
It's a strong possibility when they did the new Blackjacks and it was him and JBL.
Yeah. See, a lot of people don't know about Kendall. They know about Barry, but very few people still remember Kendall. Do you remember him?
Mm-hmm.
He didn't stay in the business long though, did he?
Yeah, he was in the UWF for a while. The Bill Watts' version of the UWF, not the defunct Japanese Federation. And he was the former UWF World Champion.
Okay. So now we're talking about guys that how about Tracy Smothers and Tracy Smothers and Kendall Williams. I think that would have been an interesting tag team.
Mm-hmm.
But there's just so many out there we could go into, discuss, and talk about. A lot of great tag teams. I mean, you got guys like Austin who was wrestling in the late '80s, early '90s, and you could have threw him in there with about anybody and had a good tag team because he was a great tag team wrestler.
Him and one of my two choices were a tag team, the Hollywood Blondes. Him and Pillman.
Yep, exactly. They were a good team. Um, uh, Jimmy Garvin, he was a good tag team wrestler. Look what he did with Michael Hayes. Uh, he also teamed with his brother Ronnie for a while after the burning incident.
I
Remember
just had
that?
a scary thought because when you said Michael Hayes, Scott
What?
Norton and Terry Gordy.
Oh Jesus! Good God! Do you remember when they were when Terry was tagging with Steve Williams?
Mm-hmm.
They were a team, man. Those two guys just went in and kicked the crap out of everybody.
Yeah, there's a guy at New Japan right now who also wrestles in Ring of Honor. His name's Brody King. He reminds me a lot of Terry Gordy. He's got that same size and build to him.
Yeah, but does he got that mean streak?
Mm-hmm.
Terry Gordy had that mean streak about him.
Yeah.
That's why I liked him. And Dr. Death was just double tough. You could hit that man with anything, he just stand there and look at you. Okay. I know the Hulk Hogan and Undertaker used to lie. See, I can't talk tonight.
Oh man, did you ever see the Brawl for All that Vince McMahon put on? It was a legit fight thing. It was kind of like a mixed martial arts thing, and
Gunn got himself knocked cold.
Yeah, he got. It was Bart Gunn just knocked him the hell out, which totally killed Steve Williams' push.
Mm-hmm.
And Vince got so pissed off at Bart Gunn for knocking him out because he put the whole thing together thinking that Steve Williams was going to win it. And he was going to use that to push Steve Williams to the world title. And him getting knocked out in like the first round just killed the whole tournament. He got so pissed off at Bart Gunn that he put him in a boxing match at WrestleMania against Butterbean. Remember Butterbean?
Oh, yeah. And he got his butt laid him out.
Yeah, and Butterbean just knocked him the hell out. So
yeah, it always drove me crazy when they start bringing boxers into wrestling, because a wrestler's going to do what he does, and the boxer's going to do what he does, and Muhammad Ali versus who was it?
Gorilla Monsoon.
Yeah, Gorilla Monsoon.
And Antonio Inoki too.
Yeah, did you ever watch that?
No, I've never seen the match between Monsoon and Ali.
It's
I saw one with against Inoki, Antonio Inoki, the guy from the Japanese guy who founded New Japan.
Yeah,
I saw that one.
And then there was several years back. They had Paul White, Big Show, for those who don't know, against who was it?
Oh hell, Loudmouth.
Yeah, a little loudmouth dude.
Yeah, what the hell's his damn name?
Mayweather. Yeah, Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather. And Mayweather knocked Big Show out. And I'm sitting there going, no.
He didn't. He was a TKO. He legitimately broke Big Show's orbital socket, so it was a TKO.
So, no. I'm sure going into that, Big Show was probably told, don't be too rough with him. Because Mayweather probably makes about 10 times the amount of money that Big Show does. And you really don't want to hurt something like that.
I don't know about that. Big Show is one of the richest wrestlers ever. He has invested his money quite well.
Have you ever thought about who are the top richest wrestlers?
Yeah,
You would have to figure Hogan's up there.
Hogan's not as rich as what you think. The richest wrestlers are John Cena, JBL, Big Show, Triple H.
Well, Triple H is a given. Look who he's married to.
Mm-hmm. JBL
Uh,
is a freaking financial advisor. He's legitimately knows money management and how to play the stock market and um, the commodities markets and stuff. He actually, when he's not doing anything with WWE, that's his day job. He's a
yeah.
financial planner.
Does he still do the talk show?
Which talk show?
JBL used to do a political talk show.
Well, I think he's on Fox News every so often, still doing their financial block.
He would, talk politics. I used to listen to it when I was doing security work years ago, but I haven't even tried to find it or anything here lately. Um, and here's the thing, man. A lot of the richest wrestlers, or the ones you thought would be the richest, probably didn't have nearly the money that people thought they had.
Well, here's the thing, man. When you look at Flair did. Flair's problem, he spent it all. He was constantly spending money that he should have. Instead of saving it, he was spending it. Arn Anderson, on the other hand, didn't spend hardly anything at all when he was on the road. Because
Sounds
he
like
did,
sounds like Jim Cornette.
yeah. Arn said the best advice he ever got from Ole was save your money. He
Yeah,
said Ole flat out told him, "Don't be like Rick." If you watch Arn's podcast, he's said that multiple times on his podcast that's the best advice anybody ever gave him in the business.
save the money. Yep. Well, you have to remember too. Back then, they didn't have guaranteed contracts like they do now. These guys were busting hump to get from one building to the next that could be 300 miles away.
Good Lord, man. They were doing 2, 3, 4 buildings in a day
Yep,
in the territories.
yep. And expecting to perform at each one.
Mm-hmm. And if you weren't a top draw and you didn't get a pop in your match, you weren't making a whole lot of money. You might make $100, $200 that day for that show.
Yeah, I've listened to several interviews with several of them. You hear stories about them going from one town to another, stopping long enough to go into a convenience store and buy a can of Vienna sausage or something and eat it on their way.
Mm-hmm.
So because they didn't have money for anything else.
No, even WWE today, listening to some of them, they did they used to have, I don't know if they still do or not, this show on WWE Network called Ride Along, where it's exactly what it is. You're riding along with the wrestlers as they're going down the road. In WWE, their schedule is so tight that they're constantly on the road driving. They have to drive themselves from one arena to another. The only time that they get on a corporate plane or bus or anything is when they're overseas. They have to pay their own way. They have to get their own rental cars, the whole spiel, and they have to drive from one town to the next. If it wasn't for drive-throughs, a lot of times they probably wouldn't eat.
Yep. And that kind of diet cannot be healthy for you on a constant basis. It really can't. But
No, they burn it all off.
oh well, yeah, but still, I wonder, as rough as they had it, let's say 30 years ago in the business, 40 years ago. You've heard the stories, going from one arena to the other arena, driving 200 miles at 90 miles an hour just to get to the next show.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully get there in time to get a little sleep at a local hotel before you have to be back up and gone again.
Kingpin throws out there, plus all the drugs they were pumped full of back then.
Oh God.
Yeah, that's what cost Tully his contract with when WCW was taking over the NWA thing. Was he tested positive for cocaine, and that just killed any push that he was going to get.
Yep. Because you have to remember back then, it was the start of that whole war on drugs, or just after it.
Yeah, and when him and Arn went back to sign with WCW, after it was about that time when he tested positive, and Jim Herd was going to pay him drastically less than what he originally had offered the two of them to come back because he tested positive for coke.
Well, here's the thing. I've listened to the interview that Tully's done about that, and he lost just about everything.
Mm-hmm.
He got down to almost nothing, and he finally managed to get himself clean, got himself back up, turned his life completely around. And I think that if you'd asked Tully about it now, you know, he'd probably say that the life that he has now is probably just as good, if not better, as the life he would have had otherwise.
Yeah, the worst part is Arn got penalized for it too because he ended up not signing for as much as what they originally were offered too. He didn't get cut as much as what Tully did, but Jim Herd was going to pay them more as a team than Arn individually. So he lost money on that deal too.
Well,
yeah, he said he didn't talk to Tully for a couple months after that.
Yeah. Well, there's been several cases of that happening though. Guys go to one organization from another and then want to come back to the original, and for one reason or another, they find a way to give them less money. The most famous one to me that sticks out is the whole Lex Luger, Eric Bischoff thing. Because if you remember, when Lex Luger went to the WWE, they were planning on pushing him for a world title. What happened with that, I'm not real sure, but it never came across.
With
Luger was, yeah.
What happened with Luger is they tried pushing him as cocky, arrogant, son of a bitch kind of guy, and he didn't go over then. But originally he had signed for Vince's bodybuilding thing.
Yeah,
he wasn't signed originally as a wrestler, and then that bodybuilding thing fell through, and Vince was like, "Okay, I got this guy. What am I going to do with him?" Luger sat around for a year doing nothing.
Yep, I remember that. And then he shows up and slams Yokozuna.
No, that was later.
Yeah,
first they made him the narcissist.
That's right.
Under Bobby Heenan, and then that he didn't get over doing that. So then Hogan left. They tried turning him into the next Hulk Hogan, and the fans weren't buying it. The fans were getting behind Bret Hart. So Luger, in his push there, became fell victim to Bret Hart's rise to prominence, essentially.
I'm trying to think, but what happened after that was Lex Luger was, of course, unhappy in WWE. Mm-hmm. He gets a to Sting. Sting talks to Bischoff. Bischoff agrees to meet with Luger. They have a meeting. Bischoff offers Luger way less money than you would ever expect. And instead of balking, Luger just simply agrees to it, which shocked Bischoff, admittedly. He said on that interview he was dumbfounded that Lex Luger would agree to do it at that low rate.
Yeah, he was expecting a counteroffer. Bischoff has said this multiple times. He's like, I'm expecting a counteroffer. Instead, I get the signed contract back.
Yep. And it never happened. Luger took what he could get.
Mhm.
Could you imagine how unhappy Luger must have been in WWE or WWF at that time for him to just say, "Okay"?
Well, look, you got to look at it from Luger's perspective on that. Everything that Vince ever promised him never happened. None of it. It all
Yeah,
went up.
yeah, yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I'm saying. If you look at it from Eric Bischoff's point of view, though, he's getting a top name at an extremely good rate, considering. Um, you can you could probably count the people on one hand that knew Lex Luger was going to show up on that first Nitro.
Oh yeah, that nobody knew. That caught the only person that knew was probably Bischoff. Everybody else may have heard rumors that somebody was going to show up, but the only one that knew for sure was going to be Bischoff.
So when he walks out on that first Nitro, the place explodes. You know, they get him back with Sting, and even from the get go, you're thinking, okay, Luger's here. He's going to be a face. He's going to be the good guy. They tag him with Sting. They come up with a tag team. And even from that point, you could see Luger slowly doing that whole turn, that heel turn.
Oh yeah, but as soon as he showed up and they had him where he was helping Sting, it's like, okay, when's he going to turn on him? Because every time Luger and Sting have ever tag team, it always ended with Luger turning on Sting.
Yep. And you remember who the other team in that angle was?
You know, it's Four Horsemen.
Nope.
Yeah, there was. Well, it depends on which time you're talking about. Because if you remember,
When Luger first got back,
okay, you're talking when he first came back.
when he first came back, the angle was the Road Warriors had the world championships,
Mm-hmm.
and they were trying to put Sting and Luger in with the Road Warriors.
Yeah, but I was thinking
And
back when they first had Sting and Luger
oh
tag.
yeah,
That was when Luger turned on Sting and joined the Four Horsemen.
oh yeah, I remember that. Yep. But that was the second time Luger was into Four Horsemen.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's something else. Luger was a part of the Four Horsemen not once, but on two separate occasions.
Yeah.
He was in it once. He either got kicked out or left. I can't remember which. Several months later, he went back to the Four Horsemen after turning on Sting. You know, uh, I'm going to tell you who I think came up with that whole angle, though. I think that was an Ole Anderson deal.
No, he wasn't there at the time. That Ric Flair had the book. It was either Flair or Dusty that had the book at that time.
Hmm. Well, the reason I'm saying Ole, because if you remember correctly, Ole did this thing one time when I don't think it was with the Horsemen. I think it was before the Four Horsemen was even a thing. He did an angle with somebody where he was supposed to have been friends with them, and then he, slowly fought against them, and who the hell? It might have been Dusty Rhodes, actually.
Yeah, he did that. There was an angle with that with Dusty when Ole was kicked out of the Horsemen.
That's it. That's it. And the way it worked was Dusty agreed to team with Ole, and it come out several months later. And this is when they would run an angle for a year or more.
Mm-hmm.
So, and finally gets to the big match. Ole turns on Dusty. They all gang up on him. The next night, they're all laughing about it, saying, "I have worked you from the beginning." This was the plan for so long for
Yeah.
us to get your confidence, and then we're going to take you out.
And everybody fell for it. They did the
Yep,
same thing with Sting.
yep,
Multiple times, Ric Flair they pulled that with Sting.
yep.
Sting is one of the dumbest wrestlers ever.
He was he was gullible. Yes, he was gullible. Right up until the whole crow thing, and then he just got
No, he
dark,
got caught
mysterious.
there too.
You know what? Yeah,
The Wolfpack.
yep.
The
Well,
NWO
they turned
Wolfpack.
on
They
him.
caught him then too.
Yep. No. Uh. Yeah. Yeah. He doesn't have a very good record with that, does he?
No.
Oh Lord, poor Sting.
Sting was better off staying the White Crow Sting and not trusting anybody. That he had learned.
Yep.
And then he joined the Wolfpack.
Speaking of Sting, I went back and rewatched the Sting Goldberg match. I think it was like the first one they had, where the end was, Sting had Goldberg in the Scorpion Deathlock, and Goldberg was pushing himself up off the match. Remember that?
Yeah, I mean that was the standard thing. I mean, somebody gets you in that or Boston Crab, you push yourself up,
Yeah,
you walk.
yeah. Every time I see that, I'm thinking, Sting should have won that match. If they were going to have somebody get over on Goldberg at that point, I think Sting should have been the guy. And yet, it was Kevin Nash with a cattle prod. That was one of the stupidest things I think the WCW ever did, or ever allowed to happen. If you're going to end that, what was it, 173-0 or whatever it was?
Mm-hmm. Well, you know what the end result of that was.
Yeah. The finger poke of doom.
Uh-huh.
Yep. But, and for those of you who don't know what the finger poke of doom is, look it up on YouTube. It is, it was basically Kevin Nash making a statement to WCW. Scorpion Deathlock sounds like a spot move.
Yeah.
Yeah, it could have been a spot move, but
Yeah, but interestingly enough, neither Hogan nor Nash got fired for that one. But Hogan, a couple years later, pulls the exact same thing basically with Jeff Jarrett, but from the other side of the angle, because he didn't want to lose the title to Jeff Jarrett, so he refused to have the match. Instead, he laid down and told Jarrett to pin him.
Yep.
And he legitimately pissed off Vince Russo comes marching down to the ring and fired him right there on the spot on live television. And you didn't see Hogan in WCW anymore after that.
I think Vince Russo was probably the worst thing that WCW ever did. They were doing so good, man. And then all at once, here comes Russo. And still to this day, I maintain that I think Russo was put there simply to destroy WCW. I think that was his purpose from the get-go, was to do everything he could to kill the company. And if you want proof, look at David Arquette as a world champion. You know, that's when I started going, okay, this is stupid. Now they're getting as bad as the WWE.
Yeah,
I think that was probably the nail in the coffin right there. I mean, can you think of one other singular event in the last 2 years of WCW and or Nitro that could have come anywhere close to destroying the company as quickly as that did.
Putting the world title on Vince Russo.
Well,
That was a thing too.
yeah,
They had
but
DDP lose a match to Vince Russo.
yeah. If I'd have been DDP, I'd have been like, okay, I'll do it, but you're going to have to pay me a whole lot of money. You know,
And
you're
speaking
going
of
to
the downfall of WCW, what was the very last match to ever take place on Nitro?
Sting and Ric Flair.
Yep.
Yep, I remember that like it was yesterday. Ric Flair came out wearing a Nitro shirt. And I honestly thought for sure that would be the last time I'd ever see Ric Flair in a ring. And I also thought it'd be the last time we ever saw Sting in a ring because I knew that Sting was never going to end up going to the WWE. I just knew he wasn't going to go to WWE. Everybody else might have went. Sting would have refused.
Darn close to 20 years until he did.
Yep. Yep. Well, and you know, if you look back at it, you know, after WCW went down, I did watch a few months worth of the WWE just to see how things were going to play out, and the way they treated the WCW guys coming in,
No, they totally botched that.
I was out. It was disgraceful. To me, it was absolutely disgraceful. You know, here these guys are, and A1 talent, and you're just going to, you know, toss them out with the trash or treat them like trash. The whole Booker T angle with The Rock, you know, The Rock looking at Booker T and saying, "Who are you?"
Mm-hmm.
You know, I as being a WCW fan, I took offense to that. I really did. I'll admit it. You know, I was like, you know what? This guy was the world champion of the company that about shut your doors forever, and that's what you're going to do.
Well, hell, he was the WCW champ at that point.
Yeah, exactly. So it just left a very bad taste in my mouth, and you know, Sting said the same thing. You know, I seen what they did to Booker T. I seen the way they were treating him. I seen the way they were treating everybody else, and it just didn't sit right with me. And you can't blame me.
Mm-hmm.
You know, would you want to go into a company from a rival company and them treat you that way? Especially if you're Sting. Especially if you're the guy who was literally known as the franchise of the company for how many years?
Oh yeah. What got me is when Vince brought the NWO in, and it was Hogan, Hall, and Nash.
Yep.
I was like, okay, this is nuts.
Let's see. Scotsman's wrote up something here. I'm glad to see you back. Let's have more topics. Wrestling is very specific, and I, for one, couldn't care less. I support you 100%, but not my topic. And the Rock and Kick Rocks fucking trash. Well, Scotsman, I apologize for the fact that you don't approve, and I support you 100%. But this Saturday night show will continue to be about pro wrestling. Um, I enjoy pro wrestling. I always have since I was a kid. You know, Rich is right there with me. I mean, we've discussed this many times, and there are others that seem to enjoy the topics. So, um, and with that being said, we will be back next week for another one of these shows. And as we go along, I'm hoping that the shows get better. We're going to start coming up with actual topics for these things. Uh, which me and Rich sort of threw this one together at the last minute because there was very little communication going back and forth this week. Um, we knew we were going to do something, we just didn't know what. But the way I would like to see this, and of course, any input Rich can give, 100% welcome because this is his baby as much as mine. Um, I would like to do shows on specific wrestlers, specific matches, um, things like that. Go into a match, tear down a match, tear it apart, look at the ins and outs, the beginning, the middle, the finish, and just give our perspectives on it. Me and Rich don't always agree on certain things when it comes to wrestling. Other things we do, and I think it'd be a great to get his point of view on the way certain matches should have went or could have went. One that we definitely agree on is a certain I Quit match, and that show's coming up. Um, Rich, what do you think? What's your opinion?
On which part of that?
Any part of it?
Well, you know, I pretty much agree with what you were saying.
Mm-hmm. You know,
Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Yeah, look at it, Scotsman. It's not supposed to be a real sport. Everybody by now knows that. Everybody knows what it is. It's a stunt show that tells a story. It's basically a live action movie live on TV in front of you or in the arenas or wherever you're watching it. So, with that in mind, I mean, it's not much different than going and watching Spider Man or something along those lines.
yeah, it's good versus evil.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a story that's been going on since the beginning of time. Since we've been putting words to paper or you know pictures to screen, that's it's been the same story. Pro wrestling takes that story and gives you a chance to forget about reality for a little while. You get to suspend the reality of the world around you and just sit back and enjoy something.
oh yeah, Scotsman. I'm totally on board with you with The Rock right now. Okay, I'm
Oh
just
yeah,
supporting professional wrestling, not The Rock. Okay, with him supporting Biden, yeah, I can't get behind that either.
here's the thing. You know, I can. There are a lot of asshole movie stars in Hollywood that sort of lean to the left side of the aisle, and hey, that's perfectly fine. They have a right to believe what they want to believe. I don't give a damn personally, but there are those that are there as well that don't.
Yeah.
The problem is you don't hear about them as much because they're not as public about their belief systems as the others.
Yeah. Wrestling, on the other hand, you have a lot of guys in wrestling that are conservative guys and firearms owners.
Oh yeah.
Stone Cold Steve Austin, big time hunter, firearms owner. Shawn Michaels, The Undertaker, Adam Shearer, who you may know as Braun Strowman. Look at Braun Strowman's Instagram from a few months ago, and or a year ago or something. I don't remember how long ago it was, but he's big into firearms. I mean, he's really big into firearms.
No.
He's got pictures on his Instagram where he did of him shooting the various machine guns. He had one, the Nighthawk 1911s in his hand. The guy's so big it looked like a Smith & Wesson shield in his hand. But
Who's this?
Adam Shearer is what he goes by on Instagram. His wrestling name is Braun Strowman.
Okay. Yeah, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, he's a big guy.
Yeah, he's what, 6'8", 6'9"?
Yeah, then like
He's
375 pounds of muscle. He was a strongman competitor before he got into wrestling. Dude is just huge. If there's a word to describe him, it's huge.
There are a lot of you got to remember where the people that started off in pro wrestling, for Christ's sake. It was just a bunch of hillbillies and rednecks. You know? And it ain't changed much over the years. You know, you still got that core, good old boy mentality that still watches the stuff because they still like it.
Yeah. Well, I forgot Brock Lesnar. Brock Lesnar's another one. He is.
Oh, Brock Lesnar's a big time hunter.
Mm-hmm.
He's got actual videos out there of him hunting in places that I wouldn't want to hunt and whether I wouldn't want to hunt in. So, there are a lot of conservative professional wrestlers who are very pro-gun. And a lot of ex-wrestlers who are very pro-gun. You got guys like Bill Dundee. He loves firearms. Several others, It's just, like in anything else, in any other walk of life, you have to, understand that people have different ideologies, different values, different ways of thinking. And are they saying what they're saying to just gather support? Do they really mean what they say? Or are they saying it just, to keep other people off their ass? Who knows? I agree with you. There are a whole lot of people that probably should step up and say something that don't. But you also have to look at their positions. If you're working for a company and you're making $1, $2, $3, $4 million a year, and just by jumping up to a microphone and saying, "Hey, I support so and so," it could cause a lot of ripples in your financial future. I can understand why they keep their mouth shut. Does it help us? Not at all. But it is what it is. It's like me and somebody was discussing earlier today. I believe that there are probably a whole lot of closet conservatives that you never hear anything from because they're afraid to say anything. because of what they do, because who they work with, because of where they work, you know. So opening up and saying something would hurt them, financially. It could hurt them, you know, career wise. Well, if I say this here, chances are I'm never going to work again. So I'm just going to keep my mouth shut and, you know, vote the way I feel I need to vote, and it ain't none of nobody's business.
Yeah, it depends on how their contract's structured.
Yeah, exactly. It's like me on YouTube. I mean, there's certain things I cannot discuss because if I do discuss those things, I could potentially get myself in a lot of hot water. So therefore, I don't mention those things. And anybody that's watched this channel for a while knows what I'm referring to. So I can see where they're coming from. The difference between me and them is I'm not going to pretend to support something I don't support just to stay in favor with other people. I don't have to do that, you know. But we have gotten way off topic here. So, uh, is there anything else you'd like to talk about tonight?
I was trying to find something real quick here. So
What you looking for?
I was trying to find the one picture. But going through somebody's account to find it's a pain in the butt sometimes.
What is that one with Braun Strowman?
Well, I was looking at his account. But, here's one of him shooting an AR. I don't know if you can see it that well. It's not the light on my camera, but on my the lighting isn't that great that you see in my phone. I'm trying to get it. But there he is. He's shooting an AR there. I guess you can see it somewhat. But you can see there he's a big guy. Here's the size of his forearm. Not a little guy. That's just one picture. He had a video where he was talking about he just came off the range and it's time to rain. He picks up a box, dumps it over his head, and it's a bunch of shotgun shells. Empties, obviously.
That's one dude I'd hate to run into in a dark alley. Even if I knew he was on my side.
Let's see if I can get that. If he's dressed like that, especially.
Yeah, exactly. Carrying an AR and it looks like a BB gun in his hands.
Mm-hmm. Full size AR.
Good Lord. But anyway, we've been going for about an hour now, so you got any final thoughts, final words?
Not that I can think of.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, I think we're going to call this one done for the night then. Stick a fork in it, flip it over, make sure it's still red in the middle because you don't want it overly cooked. I think we've had a good time here tonight. I hope y'all enjoyed it. Hopefully these shows are going to get better and more in depth. I'm going to work toward that goal. I will be back Monday night for another one of my Monday night shootouts. It'll be at 10 o'clock. With me that night will be Alaskan Ballistics. I'm going to get to chat with him a little bit. It's been a while since I've actually talked to him and see what he's got going on in his life. hopefully we'll have a good show that night. Again, it'll be a one-on-one interview. It'll be 10 o'clock Eastern on the Outlaw Hatfield. That's the Monday Night Shootout. Rich, thank you for stopping by. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your insight.
Yep, no problem.
I do appreciate you, my friend. And for all of you out there, God bless. God love you. I love you. Stop back by Monday night. Say hello. I'd love to see you there. Y'all have a good night.